Morning grade 5s, I hope you're well. Today we're going to be doing social science. I want you to get your social science book as well as your geography and history workbooks ready for me, okay? Then we're going to open up on page 31, but there's an activity on page 30, activity 6 on page 30 that you have to do. So let's quickly look. It's named the physical features in your province. Okay, so you're going to basically, if you're not sure about the physical features around you, you can go on Google Maps and have a look at the top view and see if there's any rivers, any mountains, any hills with specific names. And that's basically what you do in this activity, okay? So, and you can also Google the answers, but the answers, there's some answers in your book as well. Just go and look for the physical features that is surrounding our area, okay? Now we're going to read place names. Many places are given names that describe their physical features. A river that is often dry may be called a sand river. There is a sharp-pointed rock in the Oklahoma Drakensberg mountain called the Devil's Tooth because it looks like a devil's tooth. Okay. Then there's mountains around the world that is called the Table Mountain. These mountains are flat at the top. And the most famous Table Mountain is in Cape Town. Sometimes these mountains are covered in clouds, which people call the tablecloth. So I quickly want to demonstrate. Now, you know how a mountain usually looks like this, right? Now, a Table Mountain is flat at the top. It does not have that rounding. So it sort of looks like a table. And because it's really high up the mountains and it gets misty, or even when the clouds gather around, they would say that it looks like the Table Mountain has a tablecloth over it, okay? So a cloud tablecloth, okay? Ukalamba means the barrier of spears in Zulu. The name describes the high cliffs of the Great Escarpment that divides the lower coast plains and hills from the high island plateau. Early Dutch explorers called this mountain range Drakensberg or Dragon Mountains. Okay, so here is a nice picture of that. Let's go to page 32. The hole in the wall is a hole that goes through a huge cliff in the sea off the eastern Cape Coast. The hole was caused by waves crashing against the cliff for thousands of years. Waves still crash through the hole today. Xhosa-speaking people call this place isiKhaleni, which means the place of thunder. Okay, so here's a nice picture of that, where the waves crashed and created a hole. Now activity 7. Complete these sentences about the places and their names. Read the information about the 3 places. We've already done that, and now you need to complete these sentences. So you can only write the answer, it's fine. Number 1, Table Mountain has a tablecloth when what? The Ukalamba Drakensberg Mountain form a barrier between what? Number 3, I think explorers long ago may have called the mountain which they saw the Drakensberg because of what? And number 4, you can hear a noise that sounds like thunder near the hole in the wall when what happens. Okay, so that is all for geography. Now we go to history on page 118. Okay, so social, political, and economic structures. New words. Structure is the way people in a society are organized. Social is the relationship between people living together in a community. Political is the way in which society is ruled. Economic is the way in which the necessities of the life are produced and distributed. And kotla means meeting place. Every society or community is structured or organized in a certain way. There are often important social, political, and economic reasons for this. The name applied to the early African farmers. In farming communities, food and seeds are stored. The people who controlled these stores had a lot of power over other people. They became kings or chiefs or important headmen or councillors. Other people had to serve them and be loyal and obedient if they were to share the food and seed supplies. So basically this means that the people that were in control of storing the food that they produced during farming were called kings or chiefs or councillors, and they had to keep this, and it needed to be someone who would be fair, because the food needed to be distributed evenly so that there's no one that is hungry. In early African societies, each member of the family had a role to play. The younger men did the hard work in the fields. They looked after the livestock, hunted for food, and fought battles if necessary. The women and girls cooked, brewed, and fetched wood and water and looked after children. They also worked in the fields, planting, weeding, and harvesting. Children became involved in farming from an early age. Boys helped the men with the cattle and other animals. Girls helped the women in the field and in the household. When a family needed help, they would organize a work party. They would prepare food and beer, and people would come to help with the work and share in a meal afterwards. Okay, now the roles of a chief. A chief were very important as it was believed that they were closer than ordinary people to the ancestors and they looked after their people. The chief's kotla, now the kotla is the meeting place, was where people of the village met. Now this was usually located near his homestead. Now remember we had a look at how the homestead looked. So it was the cattle in the middle and then all of the homes around. So all of the king's wives was around, and then also near this cattle was the kotla where all of the people met. Okay. Now the kotla was very large so that the men of the village could attend the meeting. The older men were leaders who helped the chief to settle arguments between people. The chief was always the wealthiest man in the village, with the most cattle. Wrongdoers would appear before his court. If they were found guilty, they had to pay a fine, and fines were paid in cattle. The chief also obtained cattle from raids on other chiefdoms. He was entitled to some cattle from each man who successfully took part in the raid. Okay, and then here's a picture of a tall stone. Now it is still positioned today at the Kaditswene, a town in the northwest province. It is near the entrance to where the chief's kotla was. It is a symbol of power of the chief. It shows that the chief is as strong and firm as a rock. Now you need to do activity 5. All of the answers is on this page that I just read, so it will be pretty easy. Number 1, what were the roles of each of the following members? The older men, the younger, the boys, the women, and the girls. Number 2, write down the 3 things that the chief did in early farming societies. And in grade 4, you learned about good leadership. Now I want you to write down 3 characteristics that the chief had to have to be a good leader. Okay, and that is all you have to do. Please remember you need to prepare for the class test for geography that I will send you next week. And this week you had to prepare for the class test of history. So I will send that on WhatsApp. It's probably already on WhatsApp. Just go ahead and have a look. You don't have to print it or anything. You can just write the answers for me on a separate piece of paper. If you have any questions, remember you can WhatsApp me at any time, or you can wait with your questions for our Zoom session. Good luck.